Let me get this straight. Society tells you to treat women as equals, put them on pedestals, chase their approval, and somehow this makes you more attractive. But every guy who follows this advice gets friend-zoned, manipulated, or dumped. Sounds like a scam, right? But it's not a scam. It's a deliberate lie, and Weininger exposed why over a century ago. Let's break it down. Otto Weininger was a brilliant Austrian philosopher who wrote one of the most controversial books in human history, Sex and Character. Published in 1903, it was immediately banned, burned, and buried by the intellectual establishment, not because his observations about women were false, but because they were devastatingly accurate. Here's what Weininger discovered that modern society desperately wants to hide from you. Women and men operate on fundamentally different psychological and biological frameworks. While society preaches equality, nature designed hierarchy, and when you ignore this hierarchy, you don't become enlightened, you become enslaved. Think about every piece of modern dating advice you've ever received. Just be yourself. Show your emotions. Respect women as equals. Chase her until she says yes. Sound familiar? Here's the problem. Every single one of these statements is designed to make you weak, needy, and ultimately unattractive to the very women you're trying to win. Weininger observed something that still haunts modern academia. Women are fundamentally driven by what he called the principle of sexuality, an unconscious force that evaluates men not for their kindness or equality, but for their strength, dominance, and genetic superiority. This isn't conscious. She doesn't wake up thinking, I need to find an alpha male, but her biology is constantly screening for it. When you treat her as an equal, you're essentially telling her subconscious mind that you have no understanding of natural hierarchy. When you chase her approval, you're signaling that her validation is more valuable than your own self-worth. When you put her on a pedestal, you're literally placing yourself beneath her, and nothing kills attraction faster than a man who voluntarily submits. But here's where it gets really dark. The modern feminist movement didn't accidentally stumble upon these toxic dating strategies. They were deliberately promoted to weaken men psychologically. Think about it. What better way to control masculine energy than to convince men that their natural instincts are evil, that dominance is toxic, and that submission to feminine approval is virtue? Weininger saw this coming. He predicted that a society that inverts natural gender dynamics would produce weak, confused, and ultimately self-destructive men. He called it the feminization of culture, not because women are bad, but because when feminine principles dominate masculine spaces, chaos follows. Here's what really happened to dating over the past 50 years. Men were systematically trained to abandon their masculine core, their natural leadership, their emotional strength, their hierarchical instincts. Instead, they were taught to become emotional tampons, validation dispensers, and approval-seeking satellites orbiting female attention. The result? Modern women are more depressed, anxious, and unsatisfied than ever before in human history, not because men are treating them badly, but because men are treating them exactly how society said they should, and it goes against every biological instinct women have evolved to respond to. Weininger understood that women don't actually want equality in relationships. They want what he called polarity, the electric tension that exists between masculine and feminine energy when each operates in its natural domain. When the man leads with quiet confidence and the woman responds with receptive energy, both parties feel fulfilled. When this polarity collapses, attraction dies. But wait, it gets deeper. Weininger discovered that women possess what he termed unconscious genius, an intuitive ability to read male psychology that far exceeds conscious analysis. She can sense your neediness before you even realize you're being needy. She can detect your lack of confidence through the way you text, the way you walk, even the way you breathe around her. This is why all those pickup artist techniques fail long term. You can memorize lines, learn confidence tricks, and practice social dynamics, but if your core is still seeking her validation, she'll detect the incongruence immediately. You can't fake authentic masculine energy any more than you can fake genuine laughter. Here's the psychological warfare that's been waged against modern men. They've been convinced that masculine traits, dominance, leadership, emotional control, hierarchical thinking are toxic. Meanwhile, they've been told that feminine traits, emotional expression, consensus seeking, validation hunting are evolved and enlightened. But Weininger observed that when men adopt feminine psychological patterns, they don't become better men, they become confused women, and confused women can't attract real women because attraction requires polarity, not similarity. The most dangerous lie society tells men is that women want to be approached as rational equals who will logically evaluate your relationship worthiness. In reality, women operate primarily through emotional and intuitive channels. She doesn't choose you because you check all her boxes, she chooses you because being around you makes her feel a specific way. That feeling isn't comfort or safety or equality. It's excitement, tension, and what Weininger called genetic recognition, the unconscious realization that you possess traits that would benefit her offspring. This sounds harsh, but it's not personal. It's biological programming that runs far deeper than conscious thought. Weininger also noticed something that explains modern dating chaos. Women are naturally hypergamous, meaning they're psychologically designed to seek men of higher status, strength, and genetic quality than themselves. This isn't greed, it's survival instinct honed over millions of years of evolution. When society tells women they're equal to men in all domains, it creates a massive psychological conflict. Her conscious mind believes she deserves an equal partner, but her unconscious mind is still screening for someone superior. The result? She becomes perpetually unsatisfied with men who treat her as an equal, but she can't consciously understand why. This creates what Weininger predicted would be the modern woman's dilemma, being intellectually programmed for equality while being biologically programmed for hierarchy. She ends up rejecting good men who follow social programming while being inexplicably drawn to men who ignore it. Here's where Weininger's insights become practically devastating. The men who succeed with women in the modern era are those who unconsciously or consciously reject feminist programming and operate according to natural masculine principles. They lead without asking permission, they set boundaries without explanation, they pursue their mission with or without female approval. These men aren't necessarily jerks or players, they're just psychologically aligned with how attraction actually works rather than how society says it should work. They understand that respect is earned through strength, not demanded through ideology. But here's the trap most men fall into: they try to switch between these modes. They'll be nice and accommodating with women they really like, then wonder why those women lose interest. Meanwhile, they'll be naturally confident and slightly dismissive with women they don't care about much, and those women become obsessed. Weininger explained this paradox through what he called the inverse law of attraction. Women are most drawn to men who need them least, and least drawn to men who need them most. This isn't cruelty, it's biology. Desperation signals genetic weakness, while indifference signals abundance and superiority. The most profound insight Weininger offered was this: modern men have been taught to hate their own nature while worshipping feminine nature. They've been convinced that masculine energy is inherently destructive while feminine energy is inherently pure. But nature designed both energies to work in harmony, not for one to dominate the other. When masculine energy is suppressed, it doesn't disappear, it becomes twisted. Instead of confident leadership, you get manipulative nice guy syndrome. Instead of protective strength, you get possessive jealousy. Instead of decisive action, you get passive-aggressive resentment. The solution isn't to become a caveman or treat women badly. It's to understand that true masculine energy is actually protective of and attractive to feminine energy. When you operate from genuine strength, emotional, psychological, and spiritual, you create a space where her feminine nature can flourish safely. This is what Weininger meant by natural polarity. She doesn't want to compete with you for dominance, she wants to feel secure in your strength so she can express her own gifts freely. But if you're constantly seeking her approval, you force her into the masculine role of leadership, which exhausts her and kills her attraction. So, yeah, now you know why society's lies about women are systematically destroying modern men. It's not accidental, it's designed to create weak, confused, and ultimately controllable masculine energy. You're welcome. That's gonna cost you one subscribe or a comment below telling me about the worst piece of modern dating advice you ever followed and how that worked out for you. If you want to understand how to actually rebuild authentic masculine energy in a feminized world, this video right here breaks down the practical steps that actually work.